How do you find light when your world shatters overnight? At 27, Christy returned from a meditation retreat to discover her sister had taken her own life. In the midst of heartbreak, she leaned into her grief, anger, pain, and all, and found strength through her spiritual practice. Out of that journey, she wrote, Why Did She Choose Suicide? Offering hope and healing to others walking through tragedy. Now, with more than 25 years guiding thousands through power of energy and consciousness, Christy shares her newest book, The Flow Factor, showing us how to shift our perspective, open to creativity, and move into the life we were meant to create. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It means so much that you're here. Before we dive in, if you're here because you're seeking truth, healing, and transformation, make sure to subscribe and share this episode with someone who's ready for their own awakening. Every conversation here is meant to inspire your journey and remind you you're not alone. All right, here we go. My first question. Can you go a little deeper into the trauma you experienced and how your personal healing journey got you where you are today and into the work that you do?
Yeah, so as I write in the flow factor, all of us have some sort of traumas, and I categorize them in the book to be either big T traumas, like abuse, like people that are in war and have post-traumatic stress disorder. The big T trauma for me in my life was my sister committing suicide. But there were a lot of little T traumas. My mom and dad had a very, what I was called very abusive relationship. Not, it had some physical abuse in there, but more mental, emotional abuse. The way they communicated with each other was constant bickering and yelling. And it just didn't feel good when I was a kid. I didn't feel safe. And I certainly felt like no matter what I did, it wasn't enough. And my sister, she was a drug addict. She also went through having, her own struggles with the fact that she was a gay woman and would that be accepted? And one of the biggest traumas that I had when I remember I was 9 years old. I was in fifth grade, and my sister lived in California, and she came back with a friend of hers. And they were getting ready. It was the disco age. It was the 70s, right? They were getting ready to go out and have some disco fun and all that. Yeah, exactly. And we had been at dinner and my sister was showing pictures. But I noticed, because I'm very observant, I noticed she was holding back a couple of pictures. And I thought, ooh, what are those? I want to see those, right? The curious little kid that I was.
Yeah.
And so the minute she went to go get ready, I went into her purse. I took out the pictures because back then, right, it wasn't digital. They were pictures with negatives and
Oh,
the
right.
whole shebang, right?
Yeah, I know all that. Yep.
Yeah. So I took out the actual physical pictures, and there was a picture of her kissing another woman,
Mm.
which confused me. And so instead of going and seeing my sister and asking her about it, I walked up to my mom and I said, "What does this mean?" And World War III broke out that night in my family room, and my mom started screaming. Now, she was a very traditional Catholic, kind of person. And so she was just like, "Oh my God, you're a sinner, and we got to get you help. And, we got to call a priest." And my dad just sat there with just complete, just pale white face, didn't even utter a word. He was just frozen. And it goes into what we're going to talk about into the flow factor, because there's either fight, flight, or freeze.
Mhm.
And in that moment, my dad was like a bunny rabbit in the desert being hunted by a coyote. He was just in full shock mode, freeze mode. And so my mom was screaming and yelling and upset, and we got to go get a priest to do the exorcism and all this other stuff. And so my sister hated me, hated me
Mhm.
because I literally yanked her out of the closet. Later in her life, she would tell me that she's grateful that I did that because she never would have had the courage to do it.
Mm.
And even though family members, cousins, uncles, aunts, thought she was, it was never spoken about. And even after this time, as she would bring her girlfriend with her, never men, it was always a girlfriend, no one ever spoke of it. It was something that was just kind of under the carpet. And even after this time, when it was declared to my mom and my dad, it's like my mom never told her best friend that her daughter was gay. She just could never admit that.
Mm.
And so, I grew up where it was like, oh, so you're gay. Okay, so you're with women. All right. I mean, I grew up through hanging out with my sister where I would be at gay pride parades or I would be at gay picnics and I would see the women playing football together and, the whole thing. And my sister and I, when I was older, she'd be like, okay, your place or mine, meaning are we going to a straight club or a gay club? you know so it was just something that was part of my life, but my mom could never accept it and had a really hard time with it. So that, combined with the fact that my sister already was doing drugs, she had escaped, right? She was fleeing, she was doing the flight mode in her whole life, which was not coming to full acceptance of her own emotions, of who she was, all of that. So we all learn from these traumas. I've never shared that anywhere, actually, on a podcast or interview
Wow.
ever before. So,
Okay.
yeah, it was the story to share, just to tell you that. But we all get developed. We all see the big people in our lives and we learn these coping mechanisms. They're hardwired in us,
Mm.
right? Like the bunny or the coyote in the desert. To us as human beings, we are animals. We are an animalistic nature, and part of our brain reacts in survival mode. And
Mhm.
so when something, a tragedy, a trauma happens, that's when our survival instincts kick in. It could be someone literally yelling at us. I had last year, it was about a year ago. I was at the grocery store and I was picking up stuff for my son's birthday. And he had manifested, he's such a manifest. He had manifested a half a day for his birthday. I'm like, how do you do that, kid, man? And so I had like 3 hours to go get his cake and get his balloons and, do all that stuff. And just because I know I was putting pressure on myself, but when I picked him up from school, I wanted the house to be decorated and, and that sort of thing. So I was rushing around doing my thing, and it was a hot day in Arizona. And so I had the cake and the balloons and everything in there. And I swear to you, 10 out of 10 times, I always go and put my cart back, right? And this time I didn't. I put it up on the curb away from the cars so people could park, right?
Mhm.
And I'm getting in my car and I'm seeing this woman glare at me, like glare with just hatred and like just despise. And I'm kind of looking at her like, what? And she goes over to the cart and she's deliberately looking at me, like trying to shame me.
Yeah.
And she takes the cart and she starts walking it across the street back to the cart place. And so I rolled down my window and I said, thank you, and she goes, you're lazy, and just yells at me. And I was like, so for a moment, I was in like stun mode, but the whole way I drove home, I was arguing with that woman in my head.
Mhm.
Go, I'm not lazy. I'm one of the hardest working people that I know. I always put my cart back. Geez, one time I don't put my cart back and I'm
And they catch
arguing
you. They catch you. Only that would only
the
take.
one time, right? But what happened was I was in my head in survival mode, in my fight mode.
Mhm.
And the minute I realized it, I was like, come on, this is you're writing a book on this, right? It's like the survival mode has kicked in and you're fighting now with a woman that's no longer around you,
Mhm.
right? I'm judging her. God, if she's a mother, her poor kids, I'm doing the whole thing. And I finally went, okay, you know what to do. And I brought myself back into compassion,
Uh-huh.
which then neutralized how I was feeling. It neutralizes us out of that fight, flight, freeze mode and brought me back into flow. And the rest of the day, I was able to, enjoy the birthday with my son. But what was interesting is, and this is where I'm going here, because this is a trauma point.
Mhm.
I picked up my mom, and my father had passed earlier that year. And so I picked up my mom to have dinner, because we were celebrating my son's birthday. And I tell her about this situation. I tell her about this woman. She goes, "Oh, your father hated that. He would get so mad if someone would leave a cart somewhere. He would go livid." And I thought, oh,
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
There it is. There's the imprint of what I should do. And yes, it's kind, but there's also I know for a fact the grocery store has people that go out and they pick up all the carts, right? It's their job to do that. However, the berating
Yeah.
that I didn't do that came from a perfect stranger. And that's how it works. Our own traumas, those moments of bushwhacks. I know we're going to discuss that, where we're going along, we're feeling good. I mean, I was in a great mood. It was my son's 14th birthday. I've gotten the cake and the balloons and, decorations for the table. And then boom, out of the blue,
Yep.
right? So that's how it works. And I'm just really happy that the flow factor helps people not only identify when we're in those survival mode, but also what to do about it to get out of it.
Yes, I have. And you know what? Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing that story about your sister, because if you've never done that before, I'm grateful you were able to do that on here.
I've shared it, but not in publicly. But yes, you're welcome.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
And I have a couple of questions related or statements, and then wanted to hear your feedback on all that. The first thing was, well, first of all, when you were just now talking about feeling compassion for yourself so you could get back in the flow, I have to admit that's what I'm doing right now as we speak, because there's a lot of things happening in my life at the present moment, and just being compassionate for self especially is a huge step in breaking that energetic nervous, because it doesn't matter what we're doing. It doesn't matter what we've experienced. We deserve that compassion. And when we're compassionate, it does something. The energy does something within the body to create a settling feeling. So when you said that, I was like, oh, okay, let me try that. Okay. Can you touch on that a little bit more on what that might be?
Yeah, so when you say it does something, what it does is, first of all, our soul connects at compassion or higher. So when we bring in that energy of compassion, we're bringing in that connectivity to something bigger than ourselves. We're letting ourselves be in that higher connection. And we're letting that comfort, that reassurance, right? That soothing energy come in. And when we're there, our mind isn't focused on the judgment or where we were or the nervousness or whatever it is. So once we invite in that compassion energy, we're inviting in the higher frequencies and vibrations, which feel good, which feel soothing, which brings us a sense of peace. But it also calms our limbic system. It calms that whole part of our fight, flight, freeze. It calms our nerves. It calms the whole entire biological experience of our bodies. And so that's why with the invitation, just by thinking of compassion, just by focusing on it, it soothes us, and then the body can calm down. Because like I wrote in the flow factor, we have 4 bodies. We have the mind, the mental body, our emotions, our emotional body, our physical body, and then our energy body. So what happens when our mind says, I want to bring in compassion, I'm allowing in compassion, that energy comes in and it soothes our mind. So our mental body, which does affect our emotional body, our emotions start to calm down, which then the mental and the emotional calms the physical. And then we're in tune with the energy body that is the light of our soul.
That so makes sense, because it basically, what I felt was as a physiological response to stress, your heart rate goes up. And when I started thinking about compassion, I could feel it calming. So that's a great description. I love that. Thank you. I've never heard that before.
You're welcome.
The other thing I wanted to ask or talk to you about is these survival instincts, because in the work that I've done with trauma and grief with myself and others, I learned a while ago that when we get into a stress response or a trauma response, that the frontal lobe literally shuts off, and the blood shunts to the back of the head. And so that's where that stress response comes in. And that's where, if, like, for example, you're angry, you see red, all these different things are going on. And it's difficult at best when you've been traumatized, especially for someone who has like complex PTSD or the stacked trauma or whatever, to be able to pay attention to that, because it's like an immediate, thing. But
it's a switch. Yeah.
yeah, it's a switch. But what I have experienced is that there's a 2 to 3 second opportunity for us to observe what's happening and to shut that off. And to stay in the frontal lobe so we can think about what our next response is, rather than go into a reaction.
That's 100%. I talk about that all the time. And I talk about that in the flow factor as well, is that, think about it, when we feel an emotion, it goes up, and it all happens so quick that it's a nanosecond, right? We get a hit, we hear something, our emotions, the energy goes up into the back of the head, and that's where all of this gets active. And you're right, all of the energy is here, it gets blocked here. So the higher centers of intuition through our third eye and connectivity through our seventh chakra, they're not activated anymore. They've shut down, and all our world becomes what we're fighting against, what we need to freeze against, what we need to run from. And we're in that survival mode. And that's the thing that flow brings in. The flow allows us then to reactivate the prefrontal cortex, because one of the very first things is the prefrontal cortex is about looking into the future, having goals, having vision, having imagination, right? To be able to see what we do want versus what is going on or what we don't want. So when you can recognize and have this awareness that you're in that fight, flight, freeze mode, and return into that compassion, bring in that soulful energy, that light energy, now you're activating it. The council one time, when my son had a traumatic experience when he was in 8th grade a few years ago, he had a buddy of his that is a gymnast and did a backflip. And gotta love my son's, courage and confidence, but he's like, oh, I could do that too. And he wasn't on foam, he was on concrete when he did that. That wasn't the smartest thing to do, because he did a backflip and landed right at the back of his head and neck. He is lucky that he didn't have brain damage. However, he went unconscious, he had a concussion, the whole thing. So the council, and I know we're going to bring them in a bit, was looking inside of his head and getting the blood moving and, circulating things and getting things active again. And they were like, hey, there's like a switch here. So they found there is two sides of both sides of the brain. There are pleasure centers in the brain. But what happens, it's like a light switch. It's either on or it's off. When it's on, we're focused on the pleasure. When it's off, we are avoiding pain.
Yeah.
And so it's like a teeter-totter, right? Light switch, it's either on or off. And so when the push against what we don't want, which is being in survival mode, right? When we're focused on what I talk about in the book, contrast, what we don't want, what we're afraid of, what we're projecting and worrying about, most of which will never, ever happen. We're in that, pushing against the pain instead of moving towards the pleasure. And when we can reactivate those pleasure centers in the brain, it creates more of this awareness, this higher connection between our spiritual self, and that creates healing from those traumas.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. It's like, I'm while you're talking, I keep bringing in all these experiences I've had throughout my life, and it's and I know we are going to talk to the council. You've done another podcast where you brought in the council and you talked about healing work that you did through the council. And I thought that was interesting. What is that? How does that work together with the council and the work that you do to help with your son in doing that healing work?
Yeah. So whenever someone is channeling, and that's what I do, when someone is bringing in a higher awareness and consciousness, we all are channelers, because we can bring in the higher consciousness of our soul, right? When you just felt that calming down, you were bringing and connecting and channeling the energy of your soul, which then helped your body to relax, your heart to stop beating so fast, your hands from shaking. It calmed you down. So I bring in a very high energy of the council who says they are ascended masters, right? I raise my vibration to receive them, and they lower their vibration to be able to come into a physical reality. And for every single channeler that opens themselves up, the channel or with the energy, the conduit that's coming through utilizes the consciousness of the human being. So I've been a coach for 25 years. I've been an energy healer for 25 years. I've been helping people master their energy for 25 years, right? And so they come through me and they can pull from. Sometimes they'll say something to someone like they'll say like, "Oh, the Double Mint commercial," and start singing it. Or they'll say, "The Kool-Aid guy from the 70s, that guy that would like," and they're grabbing what's in my conscious. So they're really amazing coaches because I'm a pretty good coach, right? And yet they come through, yet they take it to a totally different level because I can't see, I mean, I can see energy and that sort of thing. And I can definitely tell patternings of blocks and things like that people have. Because again, I'm very intuitive, but I've also been doing this a long time. They see the hologram. So they could go to someone and go, "Okay, you have an imprint here. This happened when you were 4 years old." And the person's like, "Oh my God, that's when my parents got a divorce." Or like, "This happened when you were 3 years old." "Oh my God,
You
that's when I
just
was
read mine.
molested."
Go
What'd you
ahead.
say?
You just read mine because my parents split up when I was 4, but there's a sample.
Well, they just gave me that. So that's why I use that as an example. Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm see, they use me, I use them.
Okay.
They feed me, they use my brain and what I have in it. I mean, the other day they said, "You got it," something, I don't even remember what it is now. "You got it, Toyota," and it's like,
Why are you bringing this up?
I know it's just because it's in there, "You want it, you got it, Toyota,"
Toyota.
right? And it was like everybody
Old
was like,
school
"What? Where is that?"
commercial.
Yeah, so there you go. Plug on Toyota.
One, a lot of museums know where I've come from, the traumas that I've been through and all that. And I have been working for over 30 years clearing my nervous system out because initially it was more cognitive, and then I went into the somatic work, and now now this whole thing, having this conversation with you, is starting to really connect all of it together. And so my personal experience with flow, which I had an aha moment about, I don't know, 8, 10 months ago, has been about clearing my nervous system of the stuck traumas that kept me from moving forward. And we mentioned Flow Factor a couple of times, which is your newest release of your book. Can you explain what the Flow Factor is and how it relates to working with the nervous system and trauma?
Yes, so the flow factor is like we as the human being have free will and choice, right? And yet flow is always available to us. It exists. And when we, the human being, are tapping into it,
Mm-hmm.
that's the factor, right? We hold the factor. Like, are we doing it or not? Are we choosing the energies and the frequencies or the emotions and thoughts and words that feel bad? Or are we choosing the ones that feel good? Because that's our choice. But the flow is always accessible to us. I like to equate it to like a piano, right? You have keys on the piano. They exist there for any person that plays that piano. If you hit a certain key, it doesn't play a different vibration
Right.
when someone else hits it. Every single person can, when they hit that, it's going to play the same exact note.
Yeah.
Well, we're the piano player and the keys exist, but it's us that has to go up to them and choose them and play a song, either D, 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 or put notes together and create a symphony, right? And so we're the choosers, but the flow is always there. So when we are in trauma, it closes down and constricts our nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it this way. If you walked up to a friend and you go, "Hey," and you tap them on the arm, it's not going to hurt them. But if they hurt their shoulder, if they got burned, severely burned, or they dislocated their shoulder and you hit them on the shoulder, they're gonna be like,
Mm.
that's what pain does. So we're walking around in our pain body a lot of times. And when we get triggered, when something pulls us off, when something gets activated in that survival mode at the back of our head, we're very reactive
Mhm.
instead of that responsive. Instead of, hey, how are you? It's like, oh, we're either reacting or responding. And to not judge ourselves when we are reactive, because that keeps us stuck in the trauma.
Mhm.
There's an amazing graph at the back of the books, the appendix of the flow factor. The second half of the book is all energy mastery processes. Oh, it's so pretty. It's all energy mastery processes. And at the very back of the book, there's a graph that says when we are in flow, how we get there and how we get out of it. And the minute that we judge something, uh-oh, this is bad, we're out of flow. We're in anytime there's a judgment of someone or something or even ourselves, we're not in compassion, therefore we're not in flow. And when minute we judge, we then criticize, and then we're in that space of lack. But we bring in the compassion, that's what brings us back into flow. So even if you are feeling anxious, even if you are feeling nervous, even if you're feeling tense or fearful or afraid or worried or any of those things, compassion and that invitation of compassion neutralizes us, and then we can come back to a calm place. So let's talk about compassion a little bit more,
Okay.
because most people don't know how to get there. And so I just want to give a 3 step process to how to get there. First of all, the minute you think about, like I did in that car, arguing with that woman that just told me I was lazy, right? The minute I brought in compassion, like that didn't feel good,
Mm.
right? That I didn't deserve that. That didn't feel good, right? It's like I brought compassion to myself. Then the second thing that I did, even while I was driving, and you can do anything to touch yourself. You mentioned somatic, right? This is a somatic experience. Give yourself a hug. Wrap your arms around yourself. Do it, Caroline. Wrap your arms around yourself and just breathe into that. All of you watching, listening to this, just let yourself there's no wrong way of doing this, but you have to do it. So wrapping your arms around yourself gives you that compassion. It's soothing. It's a touch for yourself. You're taking all your attention out of you and into yourself. It calms the limbic system. It calms the nervous system.
Well,
It
yeah.
yeah,
Quick question. As far as that goes, especially as babies, if babies aren't touched, they die. So
yeah.
as human beings, we are meant to be touched. And when we aren't touched, this is actually a good something to take the place of that, because we're still touching. It's just that we're not being touched by someone else. So
Yes.
I can feel that. Yep.
Yeah. So even if you don't have anybody around you to soothe you in a moment,
Yeah.
hug yourself. In that car at a stoplight, I literally wrapped my arms around myself and I was like, you're right. That didn't feel good.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's the invitation of the energy, then there's the somatic touch. You could just put your hand over your heart and your hand on your belly.
That I do this and I connect with my inner little girl
Yeah,
whenever she freaks out.
that's it.
So, okay.
That's it. You figure out for yourselves, right? It's like you could touch your head, you could put your hand over your ears, you could rock yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could rub your arm, you could rub your leg. Find and practice and play with what works for you. A hug, the first time I did that, I was like, oh, that feels so good, right? So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is words of affirmation. So you got first invite the energy in. I like to see and visualize that my soul is with me. I've got this big bubble of just enormous bubble of light, a cocoon of light all around me. That image, knowing I'm not alone, it's okay, that soothes me. Then to hug myself. Then the third is words of affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
You're okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. You're not lazy. You're good. It's gonna be fine. You're okay. You're safe,
So, yeah,
right?
you're like reparenting yourself in that.
It is.
Yeah.
It is
Mhm.
exactly it.
Nice. Okay. You had mentioned the word judge versus compassion. we are programmed in this society in every way to judge. And I found in my own journey that we judge ourselves more
More than
harshly
anybody. Yeah.
than we judge anybody else. How do we get out of it? Is compassion the thing to help us get out of judgment, or is there
It
another?
is. So the minute you hear, so there's five aspects to our consciousness. It's number one is the words that we use, right? I did a whole free program. You could go to Watch Your Words, plural, watchyourwords.com. It's free. It's 30 videos that tell you three things, and they're 2 to 3 minutes in length. It tells you what not to say, why, and what to say instead,
Mm-hmm.
because words have power. And the minute we say a word like I can't or I should or I'll try, or I miss, these are the kind of words that we say all the time, and they are sparks going towards what we don't want. They are evidence of what is going on inside of us. And as we keep saying the same words and over, we're continuing to, create and ignite that same pattern.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start to deliberately change your words, now you're changing your energy, you're changing your perspective, you're changing everything just by those words. So there's words, thoughts, and what are thoughts? They're just a series of words, right? Beliefs and perspectives. What are beliefs and perspectives? Just a series of thoughts that have been thought over and over and over again until we see evidence of it. So it all starts with the words, thoughts, beliefs, perspectives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Emotions are feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and actions.
Mm-hmm.
That's not dependent on the president. It's not dependent on gas prices. It's not dependent if we're at war or not. It doesn't depend on our parents or not. It is the present moment and what we choose to say, do, be. And if we are noticing there are negative thoughts or a thought that keeps patterning itself, it's not to judge ourselves that we're wrong or bad for that. It's to be curious. The minute you allow yourself to be curious and say, oh, isn't that interesting? I said that over and over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's telling me something. That thought is coming from some place that has been bushwhacked, some place that has been imprinted
Mm-hmm.
within me. Hello, there's a place to clear.
That's right. That's right. And one word that you just said that's very important. I always remind people about it. Every time someone brings it up, it's choice, because that is
Yes.
one thing that no one can take away from us. Even if we think they can, they cannot, because we still have choice. Even not choosing is choice, right?
Correct.
So you brought the word bushwhack up again. So I found that in your book in the Flow Factor, and I really wish I had known this years ago, but of course I didn't, because words I write, so words have meaning for me in how I move forward in my life. So can you explain these bushwhack moments and how they can either keep us stuck or show us that we can master our energy and work through the trauma instead of staying bushwhacked?
Yeah, so let me share a story that this is a
Okay.
really good illustration of one of my first bushwhacks.
Okay.
When I was 5 years old, I went to a day camp, right? And at this day camp, they brought in this horse, the most I'd never seen a horse before in my life. My mom and dad were not horse people. They weren't outdoorsy people. So I saw this gorgeous horse and I was like, oh, I could still feel it. I feel like the minute I think about that, I get so excited. And then they asked, does anybody want to sit on it and ride it? And I was like, horse from, do you remember from what was that show? Welcome Back, Cotter. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, oh, oh,
Yeah.
oh my God, oh, pick me, right? And
You're
I was,
dating
I
us.
can't help it. I said the other day, I go, someone writing on their typewriter, and I'm like, oh my God, typewriter. Most kids wouldn't even know what a
That's
typewriter is.
dating.
Yeah, that's really dating. So, anyways, there I am, and they put me on top of this horse. And there was two other little girls that they put in front of me. So I'm at the back, and I'm super tiny. They were little girls as well. It was a big horse. And especially, I think it was like ginormous, right? But it was a large horse. Anyway, so they put us up there, and I can still viscerally remember it. I was like, oh, petting it on its butt, and I was like, I'm up so high. And just the experience was like,
That's
oh my God. I was like, wow, this is one of the greatest moments of my life. And all of a sudden, a dog came over, scared the horse. The horse bucked up,
uh,
and all three of us, boom, boom, boom. So I hit the ground, and then the other two little girls landed on me. I got up and I couldn't breathe. I got the wind knocked out of me. I couldn't find my breath to save my life. Literally, I was like,
yeah. Wow.
I thought I was literally dying. And there was nobody around. It's like the camp counselor comes over to me. You all right? I mean, there was nobody compassion and loving, and there was, even if my mom and dad were there, they wouldn't have been like, "Oh, baby," I
Yeah.
probably would have gotten in trouble because I got on the horse, right?
I know that
It
one.
was
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been I wouldn't have received the love and the compassion. I would have been
Yeah.
in trouble for getting on the horse.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I was terrified. I was like, I mean, I still remember it like it was yesterday. Just this feeling of I'm going to die. So that bushwhack imprinted me up until about 10 years ago when I became aware of it and I cleared it, because if I would get too excited about something, my whole entire survival and whole entire system would shut down, because excitement, that level of excitement, meant death to me. I could die by
Wow.
being that
Yeah.
excited.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And
I've had similar experiences. So you're hitting on some stuff.
And so again, compassion to
Yeah.
that little one, hand on the heart, hug yourself, right? That little 5-year-old that had that experience, that was so excited and was so enjoying that moment, in that moment when she got bucked off that horse, right? Or whatever happened to any of you, it's like hug yourself, hug that little one, and it's like, you know what? You be the compassionate source. You're okay. It's okay. It's good to get excited. That was an exciting moment. Excitement is fun.
Yeah.
Excitement is safe. You're
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you. That was beautiful.
You're welcome.
Okay. So yeah, you're leading me in and out of my own process as we're
Well,
listening to this stuff. So I guess that's part of it.
I'm a healer. Yeah. So that happens. And the
Yeah.
council's with me and they transmit energy. So the
Yeah.
other, so let's talk about another bushwhack, because
Okay.
it could be something like as dramatic and intense as that.
Yeah.
Or it could be you're scrolling on social media and you're having a good, you're okay, you're feeling good, and something that you posted that you're excited about, someone says something rude. Like that, like
Really?
what? I remember last year again, and I am going to date myself. I was on a
Thank
beach.
you.
I was on a beach. I was in Huntington Beach, and I was just decided, I wanted to get away from the crowd. So I kind of went over to the side and I just sat down and I was like enjoying the view. And this cute little boy comes running up to me. And he looks like he's in shock because I'm not his mom. And I'm in shock because I know my kids aren't that little anymore and they're not with me. They're flying in with their dad, right? With my husband, but they're not here yet. And there was a reason I was at the beach, because I went to the airport to go pick them up and their flight was delayed in Arizona. So I was like, well, I'm going to head back it's 20 minutes away from the airport. I'm going to head back and I'm going to spend my time at the beach. So I wasn't even in a bathing suit. I was just in like a little outfit. And I'm just sitting there. And so here this cutie little boy comes running up to me and he's shocked. I'm shocked. And I hear his mom say, over here. And we both kind of laughed. And his mom was wearing a hat like I was. And she was close enough, maybe about 10, 15 feet away. So I'm there just again hanging out, and all of a sudden the little boy, he's going back and forth from the ocean to his mom, right? This time again, he runs from the ocean, comes up to me, and we're both like, and I go, nope, over there, and I was joking with her. I'm like, I must have that mom energy or something, right? And so I get on a phone call with my editor on the flow factor, and I'm talking to her, and all of a sudden I look over, and now this woman who had been there by herself has a man with her. And so I see the man, and so I go, hang on for a second. I go, excuse me, you're gonna have to leave, otherwise your son won't run up to me anymore. And he smiles, and I'm like, I know that smile. It was John Stamos.
No.
And I was like, I have got to go. John Stamos is right next to me. And so I was like, oh my God. Like he's so John Stamos. I had posters of him when I was in like
Yeah.
eighth grade of him and from General Hospital,
Yeah.
Blackie, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and I just look over and he looks over at me and I go, I just realized who you are. And I go, I had a poster of you as Blackie. And he goes, that was 45 years ago. And I'm like, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks,
That's, yeah.
So kind of let them alone. And then all of a sudden I'm just like going, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm sitting next to John Stamos on the beach in California. And I hear him say, do you want to take a picture? And I'm like, do I? So now I'm like this 53-year-old woman at the time. And I'm like, okay, don't overreact. But my 13-year-old's behind me going, just, that's right, like freaking out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I go over and I'll find the picture too, so I can show you. But I go over and I start talking to him, and we're having a conversation, and he asked me what I do, why I was here, do I live here, that whole thing. And I told him, no, I'm an author and, this kind of stuff. And he goes, oh, really? What have you written? So I told him some of my books and he goes, Quantum Success. I love that book. And he says to his wife, babe, she wrote Quantum Success. And so the author me is like standing there going, great. And the 13-year-old's behind me going, he knows, oh my God, he's read
That's so
my book.
fun.
So he gets on his phone and he buys my latest book, then at least, The Desire Factor. And he goes, here, this is you, right? And he clicks on it. So I got to show you the picture.
Okay. Hopefully it'll show. Oh, how awful. Yeah. Yeah,
John
that's
Stamos.
great.
So yeah,
You might have to
sorry.
send me that picture for the thumbnail for the YouTube video.
So anyway, I am just like in just happy, right? And I had an incredible time just connecting and on others things. And his son ran up to me again and was play looking for crabs. And so he comes over to me and he plops a crab in my hand and then runs back to the beach. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm just gonna sit here with a crab in my hand, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a crab in my hand. And so it was just an incredible experience. So I went back up, I posted that picture, right? And everyone's like, oh my God. And my friends that knew me back then are like, your eighth grade self is freaking out right
Yeah,
now. And
yeah.
the whole thing. And then one woman writes, you act like he's the second coming of Christ. What's the big deal? Right? And I'm like, that is
Yeah.
a minor one, but it was like just a bushwhack,
Well,
right?
yeah, it bushwhacked your 13-year-old who was excited at that
Totally.
moment. And yeah, what's wrong with that? Okay, people do that. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, but so here's the thing. I could either let that woman who
Yeah.
wrote that negative thing because she couldn't get into the vibration of all the excitement. Everybody was like, great manifestation. Oh my God, this is amazing, right? She couldn't raise up to that level of vibration and excitement. And plus, remember, when it gets too excited, I might have some death. So it's like, I got to have something, attract something to bring me back down.
Yeah.
That was my moment to clear that bushwhack, right? It's okay.
Mhm.
You get to be excited. This is a cool moment, right? This was your story. This was your experience. You got to meet your eighth grade crush you had all over the walls of your roof, right? And I brought the excitement back in. Now, bushwhacks come in many shapes and forms, right? They could be so simple and minor like that, like really, to you hear that your kid got in a car accident. My kid got his license 3 weeks later. He got in a car accident with my husband's car. Thank God he and everybody else was okay. But those are moments that we have in life, right?
Mhm.
You go to the grocery store to buy something, they're out of it, right? That could be a bushwhack.
Right.
Someone runs a red light and you almost get hit, but you don't. That could be a bushwhack because it takes you out of your
Yeah.
state that you're in.
Well, Okay, so thanks for bringing all that stuff up. And I could not picture John Stamos in my head while you were saying it, but I knew it because I watched the soap. What was it again? I watched that soap opera at the same time. So when you showed his face, you saw I don't know if you saw my little girl going,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that I get it. I get it. So I want to bring something up that another piece that I read in the Flow Factor that I have been exploring for a while now, and it's expansion and contraction. I've been doing it in my own work and with clients and just kind of explaining, the contraction, how when we're traumatized, we contract, how when we heal, we are expanding. And I saw that your concept takes this even deeper into bringing in your information about split energy. Can
Yes.
you dive a little bit further into the split energy piece of it?
Would
Maybe.
love to. So think about a turtle, right? That it collapses inside of its shell,
Mhm.
right? Out of protection because it's afraid,
Yeah.
right? We do that. Again, we have the same, ours is way more developed and evolved than a turtle's brain, but the same type of survival mode of fight, flight, freeze. And
Mhm.
so when something is a threat, when we don't feel safe, when we're afraid of something, we constrict in.
Yeah.
And in that constriction, when we constrict in, that's when we then create it's almost like it is an energetic imprint,
Mhm.
right? Because it's a place where we've closed down our heart, we've closed down our energy field. Now, what happens with that is we think, oh, then I'll just open back up. But like a turtle, comes back out of his shell. We constrict around a time, a situation, a memory, whatever it is. And here's the rub, that constriction energy doesn't just stop, it doesn't just like chill out. When we constrict around energy, it spirals. I like to think of it as like a tiger in a cage, right? It's going around and around and round and round. It creates a vortex. It creates literally a pulling, an attraction point for
Mhm.
more things like it. So any place in our lives where we have constricted around something, we are pulling and still attracting those things until we let it go, because the energy, once it's released, now we're not attracting it because we're not constricted with it. So split energy is one of those things where we're going along, we're feeling really good, and then maybe we're excited about something, and then all of a sudden we feel a part of ourselves that has already constricted around a subject or is starting to constrict. So you've got part of your energy going one way towards what feels good and what you want, and then you have another part of your energy going, oh, don't do that, don't do that, don't get on that horse, you'll die, right? Oh, there's
Mhm.
another horse I want to play with, I want to get on. Nope, don't do that. So now I've got split energy as far as the subject of a horse, right? It's not safe, but I want to. It was so much fun. It
Yeah.
was, that whole thing. Oh, I want to be successful, but it's not safe to be successful. What if you fail? I don't want to be disappointed, right? I want to get in a relationship. Relationships aren't safe. You're going to get your heart broken. So anytime place where you've constricted, you got your heart broken, you constricted. And then in that constriction, you tell yourself, love not safe.
Yeah.
Women aren't trustworthy.
Mhm.
Men are mean, whatever we tell ourselves, right? And we constrict around that, and then that becomes what becomes imprinted. So the split energy, just like we've been talking about, is processing the constriction, open where the constriction has been, and let the emotions move, let the energy move. One of the processes I have, and I've been teaching for a long time, is a 90-second process where you bring your focus and attention down in your belly, because that is your emotional body. You bring your focus and attention down into your belly, and you just let yourself process, feel the pulsation, and let the energy. It takes about 90 seconds of a wave of an emotion to clear and release from the body. Sometimes if it's the same energy or the same thing, or if there's high abuse or, a lot of split energy, it might take a couple rounds. Sometimes it's one and done. Other times it might take a few more times, and it might not be all at once. You might have another moment later when it comes up again. But when you're feeling something, instead of constricting around it, and again, that's where the fight, flight, freeze comes in. Because if we feel an emotion that we don't want to feel, maybe we go eat a cookie, or we go smoke something, or drink something, or shop, or, all the other things that we could do to avoid how we're feeling. But if you just take 90 seconds for yourself, go down in your belly, put your hand on your belly, and feel the pulsation of the energy in your belly, you're now letting the energy release and you're becoming more expansive. And then that's when you bring in the compassion, right? You invite in that compassion to flow through that part. So the energy that with the contents within your own container is being shifted. It's not in this fear anymore, disappointment that you're constricted around. It's now in compassion. That's the neutralizer. You do the hug, you do the words of affirmation. And then from there, you want to amp up, right? You don't stay in compassion. Compassion's great, but there's more to life. There's joy and passion and love and excitement and fun. And, there's so many other bliss and all these other fun experiences that there's other keys on this side of the piano, right? We don't just stay right in the middle.
Right.
And so that's where we want the energy to flow. Once you get flowing with compassion, now you can choose again, because we choose our emotions, you can now choose the vibration that you want to be expressing.
Wow. Wow. I'm so glad I met you. You were
Well,
like
ditto.
thank you. You were like totally shifting these things. Like you're answering a lot of questions I've had for myself, and this is really powerful. I did want to mention something for the audience, though. When you were talking about the split energy, it actually reminded me of, for those of you who know about Dr. Wayne Dyer, wasn't he the one that talked about putting on the brake and then putting on the gas and the brake, and that's the thing that kind of keeps you stuck in that's like the split energy spot?
I've studied Wayne Dyer a lot and I've never heard that example, but I love it. It totally makes sense. It's like you're putting both the gas and the brake at the same time, or you got your emergency brake on and you're trying to push the
Yeah,
gas, and it's like you're not going to go anywhere because you got the brakes on. You're constricting.
right, exactly. I hope it was him. I just know, I just want to bring the whole brake that
It's
part
no,
up.
it's a great
Yeah.
analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right, I'm really excited for this part of the conversation. You mentioned the council earlier, and since you channel the Council of Light, could you start by telling us a little bit about them and then bring them in?
Absolutely. So on my son's birthday, same son, 2018, I've always had, for about 25 years when I wrote my first book, I've had these voices that I would hear very, very clearly, giving me information. They're the same voices that have helped me write every single book that I have. They guide me, they tell me, they direct me, and it's really clear. When I pay attention to them, things go really well. When I don't and I ignore them or doubt them or go, no, I'm not doing that, you're right, they're very persistent and things usually don't go well if I don't follow them. So I've learned to be, and this is the only place I'm obedient. I'm very obedient with them. I don't like to be told what to do. With them, though, I know that they're going to guide me in a really good place. So I was driving on the freeway one day and I had this vision of this beautiful, it was almost like godlike. It was just this beautiful council. I just don't even know. It's like a circle of light, and they were just super clear that I needed to create a group program called the Sacred Circle of Light, and to invite people within my community to get healed. So once a week they would come, we'd work on their imprints. I'd do energy work on them, because life happens. You get in an argument with your husband, your kid, cocks back to you, whatever. It does, things go right at work, whatever. So we would heal these things. And one day, this woman was asking me, she came through and she was asking me a question. And instead of hearing that very clear voice, I heard it was as if my kids were talking to me. I have two, and my husband and my dog barking. It was so much chaos. It was just like, I can't hear, shush, everybody, right? And so my consciousness, I was aware and I felt like I had like fell over my chair because that's how it felt to me. I thought that physically I had went over my chair, and I let them come through and I could hear them, but I was allowing them to take the presence of my body. And they were saying things that were just amazing. Like one of the first things they said is, there are no problems, only perceptions of problems. And I was like, that's brilliant. Oh my God. Because it just tells you about our perceptions, right? One of the five things that we can control, we have influence over: words, thoughts, perceptions, emotions, and actions. And ever since that time, I was like, well, I mean, I came back in and they were all like, oh my God. And I saw the recording and I was like, that's not me. And I wasn't over the arm of the chair either. I was straight up. I had a different cadence to my voice. They had an accent. They still do. They're starting to sound a little bit more like me after all these years. But back then it was a very heavy accent. Some would think it was like an Indian accent. Someone said it sounds British. My uncle would see me on Facebook and just ask me when I got this British accent because he didn't understand I was channeling. And he would start calling me Mary Poppins, right? So,
Oh my God.
but yeah, so I have been channeling them ever since, for clients, for classes, for meditations, for all sorts of things. And they are just absolutely fantastic. So yeah, let me go get them so you can experience them.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
We are here. Hello, Delight. We're happy to be with all of you. We're always grateful to be invited to these conversations. What would you like to ask? What would you like to know?
Thank you so much, Council, for being here, first of all. I'd love the Council's perspective on why so much trauma and grief exists in the world right now, and what we can do to move through it, to awaken and uncover the truth of who we are. It feels especially important to heal our trauma in times like these.
Well, all of life is about having experiences, and there are things that are contrasting, that have very extreme things that you deem trauma, to all the things that are maybe annoying. There is a variety of experiences. And as you are going through these experiences, you are getting clearer and clearer on what you do want. And when you've had a lot of trauma, it's usually those that have had trauma and then want to find a way of getting out of trauma. Those are the ones that become conscious, because in order to heal your traumas, it is those of you that get on your knees and pray to a God that you know, or to ask for help, or to conjure up someone or something. And it is in those moments, some people, we don't call it this, but some people call it the dark night of the soul, where you're in, so because the soul is always in a joyful, pure, positive place. So it's not the dark night of the soul, it's the dark night of the human. And it's the human that feels so separated from the pleasing aspects of the soul. So when you, as the human being, have had your traumas, Christy had her traumas, and we guarantee to you she would not be, none of you would be the same person you are now had you not have them, because they developed you. And what you now do with those traumas is up to you, because those traumas, like anything in this human experience, can either separate you and pull you from the truth of who you are, or can connect you and align you with the truth of who you are. And so it's designed, it's the law of polarity. This earth plane that you all live on, it has polarity. There is high, there is low, there is in, there is out, there is hot, there is cold, right? And then there's degrees of love and hate. So there's different lack and abundance. When you have the traumatic experiences, the other polarity of healing is also available. And so it's not so much pushing against why you all have trauma. It's how do you move through the trauma, which has already informed you, which has already shaped you and molded and imprinted you, to then be able to be free of them so that you are living a very different life experience freed from them.
Thank you.
If you are expecting as a human being, your soul, let's just talk about your soul. Your soul took a body. It decided to take a body. And there are many souls. Many have said over many spiritual traditions that for every body that is birthed, that there's 1,000 souls that have volunteered for the job. Your soul was eager to take a body. And so your soul took a body and it knew the conditions that it would come into. So Christy, for example, knew the storyline, the garden that she would be planted in. And her soul, not afraid of it, because there's no fear where the soul is, says, that looks like love. I can bring love to that situation. And so comes in and forgets, the veils go on, and you forget that you are this pure positive light. You are this soul. And you remember for a time until you get imprinted and shut down. And then they tell you you're not enough, or you're a pain in the butt, or that you don't, that's not right, and your feelings are wrong, and or you get abused in some way, emotionally, physically, sexually, however it is, whatever the traumas were, you get yelled at, you get embarrassed in your classroom in front of your whole class. These are traumas that imprint you, but the soul always remains whole. The soul always remains with the blueprinted part of itself as abundant and successful and well and love and support. It's your job as the human to remember who you are, which is your soul. And that's why the flow factor is so important, because it allows you to connect back with the truth of who you are. And that is flow. That is light. Healing, our definition of healing is moving from one vibration to another. That's healing. So when you can adjust the feeling of being afraid to being free, you've just healed. When you can change a thought of not enoughness to enoughness, you've just healed. When you can change your words, Christy was talking about watch your words, right? Watchyourwords.com. When you can change your words from what doesn't feel good to what does feel good, what feels disempowering to what feels empowering, you've just healed. Your job as adults many times is to be the adult that goes back and rewrites your childhood from an energetic perspective. You get to now parent the little ones, because all of those little ones, all of those years of wanting love and you didn't get it in the way you thought you did. You wanted love and affection when mom was cooking dinner, and she needed to cook dinner because that was her way of showing you love, because she needed to have dinner on the table at a certain time and to feed everybody. So she's thinking, I'm loving my family, and she's not paying attention to you. And then you're saying, oh, she must not love me. It's all perception. Now, there are times when someone that is deeply in their own pain, someone that is deeply in their own disconnection, that they do unthinkable things. And in those times, every human being still has the ability to find the light and to heal from it and to live a very different life in spite of it. What else would you like to know?
I'm not sure if I heard whether you said this or not, or I missed it. Why is there so much trauma and grief existing in the world? now, or is this something that's always been there?
It's always been there. If you think about 2000 years ago, over 2000 years ago now, when, well, around the same time, when Jesus Christ was crucified, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, all the disciples had, and even his followers had tremendous grief because why? They were afraid of him. They were afraid of his message of love and equality and compassion. And because if everyone was treated the same and everybody had the exact directness to the Father, as in terms that he said it, then why would you need the priest? Why would you need the empire? Why would you need anybody in power? If everybody is equal and everybody is abundant, there's no power over, power under. So it's the ego minds. There are parts of the humans that get stuck in the part of being human, and that's part of suffering. The part where you forget and don't remember who you really are. That's suffering because you feel separated, you feel alone, when the truth is you're never alone. You have support. Or maybe some people get into the gotta have more, 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 that excess. Gotta have more than I need, excess. And then that someone gets into a place of feeling desperate or scared, they're going to do or say awful things. That's why people lie, cheat, steal. Because it is those people in life that are in pain. They believe every suffering. If someone is in lack, that's where drama, chaos, struggle, suffering comes from. That's why we talk about there are three different states of being. And when someone is in lack, that's when the words they use, the thoughts they think, the feelings they have, the perspectives they hold, and the behaviors they do are not in alignment. It comes from a place of, I don't have enough, I'm not enough, there's not going to be enough. And so they do things. Look at around the time in 2020 of COVID, people were going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over toilet paper. It didn't make any sense logically at all. People were acting like complete animals to get toilet paper when it wasn't like this thing gave you diarrhea. It had nothing to do with the butthole. It was, and they're acting crazy about it because they got to stock up on all of these different toilet papers for years and years and years and years. That's coming from lack. That's coming from survival mode. And it's not logical, it's emotional. And so the next bucket is what you all have been talking about. That's where satisfaction is. That's where compassion comes in. This is where soothing is. This is where fulfillment and peace and I'm okay comes from. And the third bucket is abundance. This is where fun and playfulness and joy and passion and purpose and freedom and all of the emotions, love and support and abundance and success, all of those keys on the piano are over there. But many can't find this place because they're mired in that place. And until they get from that place to the neutrality place, they can't find the higher places. It's too much of a leap. You can't tell someone that is desperate and feeling alone and in complete grief that find joy. Just be happy. Someone that has lost their dog or they lost their husband or their father or mother or sister or brother, someone they loved and cared about transitioned, especially in a traumatic or stress like Christy's sister. In those moments of her being sad and despair and going through her grief, she couldn't just go, today I choose joy. It's too low of a vibration. It's too low. That's the state you're in. But by being like Christy was, willing to cry when she felt like she needed to cry, being willing to feel her anger at her sister or anybody else for that matter, to feel and process the anger, that brought her back into neutrality. so that she could live a life beyond, because she was part of the experience she had is, oh my God, if my sister could do that, I could do that too. And I don't want to choose that. I don't want to be like her. So what do I need to heal myself so I don't end up? Because the reason she ended her life is because she couldn't see a way out.
Mm.
That's being desperate. That's being in despair. That's being in, I am just done. There's no solution for me here. And so she did the ultimate act of fleeing, of flight, and that was to end her own. So you will never be on this planet or in an experience of living where you won't have contrast, but you can utilize the contrast as something that informs you so that you can make a different choice. The contrast brings the awareness and the clarity so that you can focus on what you do want. Asking yourself, what do I want, changes your mental body. Asking yourself, why do I want it, shifts your emotional body. And then asking yourself, how will I feel in the having of it, lets you know that you're projecting until this thing, this person, that place, that pile of money comes, I won't be happy. But asking yourself, what do I want? Why do I want it? And how do I want to feel? And understanding that feeling, that state of being is here for you now. That puts you in the driver's seat. That puts you in the power position. That connects you to all that is, so you don't have to continue to suffer.
Makes sense.
Good. You need to open up the back of your head and neck. So there's a place that where your head curves, and you got all this at the back of the head, which is where the fight, flight, freeze part of the animalistic part of the brain. But right under there, that's that place where the spine starts. The head and the neck come together. If you were to put your finger there and move your head back and squish your finger, right there, that's a release valve. Imagine you're opening it up and letting the energy release out of there, because then that's going to help with this survival mode release out. Good. There it goes. All of you do it. All of you that are watching now and in future time, all time is simultaneous. So it's all, we're here with you now. Even though you're listening to this on a recording later, we're with you present now. And you're the one that's opening up the release valve and releasing this now. Good. And as this is releasing out, imagine lines of light are pouring down through the very top of your head, through your seventh chakra. Ooh, it's hot up there. Just letting light pour down through the top of your head. Good. Feel that line of light moving through your entire nervous system, going through your spine and dropping all the way down through your tailbone at the base of your spine. You feel yourself calming down. Take a breath in and breathe out. Good. What else you got for us?
Thank you for that, because the actual answer that popped into my head was trauma and grief are actually an opportunity to heal. So thank you.
Indeed.
Yes. So I've felt that what's happening in the world right now is needed for awakening and for us to do the work that we came here to do. What would you say to people who are stuck in fear and pulled away from themselves by the chaos of, say, social media and current events?
Bring the compassion. Learn how to have self-compassion. Christy talked about this, the invitation of it, the somatic touch of it, the affirmation of it. It'll work like a skill. The more you use it, the more you're going to find that it is helpful. Use it. Use it when a thought goes and give yourself compassion. If the same thought comes again, bring yourself compassion. In order to get out of that lack bucket, you need to bring in compassion. Compassion is the neutralizer. Read the flow factor. That'll help you. You can get it anywhere, your local bookstore. You can go order it if they don't have it. You can go to the flowfactorbook.com. It's got all the different links that you can go online to buy it. You can get it anywhere.
Okay, thank you. I have one more quick question. Since most of my audience are highly sensitives, old souls, and empaths, do you have anything that you'd like to say specifically to them?
Of course. We did a series of videos on Christy's YouTube station, and it's a series that we did when we were in Sedona with her. And one of the topics was for those of you that are empaths, and we'll give the gist of it here. All of you, every single human being, whether you're sensitive or not, but we know your audience is very big empaths and sensitive. And you know what? That's a good thing because that makes you a great manifester. If you're sensitive, that means that you're able to connect with your soul and the higher vibrations. So where that used to be a judgment, Christy's mom used to say to her, "Oh, don't be so sensitive. You're like your dad. Don't be so sensitive." Well, that sensitivity has made her a great coach and to be able to even do what she does as a channeler and as a healer. So look at it as that's a positive thing, not a negative thing. And when you learn how to manage it and master it, now you're even in your own power. So you are all energy receivers. You're constantly receiving in energy all the time. And most of you receive in energy from the third dimensional plane. If someone's in worry, you could pick up on that vibration of their nervous system and that worry energy that's emulating from them. And then you pick it up and go, "Oh my God, I can't be around anybody. I got to take a little bit of time." So now you're a recluse because you can't take time with people and you hide away because other people zaps your energy. Well, what's happening here is that you're picking up on other people's energy. You're not filling yourself up with the higher energy. So number one, you are an energy receiver. You all get to decide, where am I going to receive energy from? We recommend you tune into the compassion energy. You tune into that soul energy. You tune into the higher light energy, and you fill yourself up as often as you can. Start it when you first wake up in the morning. When you feel like your energy has dipped, fill yourself back up. Think about it. You don't just drink a sip of water when you wake up in the morning. You drink water all day long. You don't just go pee first thing in the morning. You go pee all day long. You don't just eat once. You do it all day long. There are things that you do all throughout your day, and energy mastery must be one of them, especially if you're an empath. So bringing in the higher light like we just did will then help you fill up your container, because you are an energy receiver, but you're also an energy container. If your container is filled, you can't pick up on the energy of negative people. You can't pick up on what's going on in everybody else's world. This is a container. If this container is filled, you can't pour any more into it. It's done. So you fill up with the energy that you want to feel good with. And then if others are having a no good mood, Christy does this the minute she goes to pick up her kids. You never know with two teenage boys. So she'll fill herself up with light. Yesterday, Alex, her oldest, kind of came to the car and he was real blue, and he got in the car and she looked at him and said, "Hey, how are you?" "Fine." And Christy said, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine, I'm tired." And she didn't then pick up on his like crappy energy and then let it affect her. She filled herself up even more, turned the radio up even higher. "Ooh, I like this song," and was dancing and singing. Even if she got rolled eyes in the back of her head, she didn't care, because she's in her own energy. She's in her own place, because that energy will transmit out, and then you will collect and attract things to you. So you are an energy receiver. You are an energy container and you are an energy transmitter. For you, empaths, fill your containers, fill them up often, and then you won't be picking up others. And you have to be part of the boundaried few, meaning if someone you talk to drains your energy, don't talk to them or don't talk to them as often. If there's something that drains your energy, notice that. 25 years ago, Christy noticed, hey, I'm a pharmaceutical rep, and every time I go into a doctor's office, it drains my energy. I don't like it. So do something else. There. All right. Well, we are surrounding all of you in light, and we are reminding each and every one of you that you are infinitely loved. Be well. Allow yourselves to receive a nice downpouring of light. Just imagine that you are being filled up, mind, body, emotions, energy field, just being filled up with light. As I come back into my body, allow yourself to just feel the light emanating all throughout your physical body. Breathing in and breathing out, giving yourself a nice big hug. Telling yourself something kind, nice, loving, supportive. And when you're ready, come back into the room. Your face looks different.
Wow.
Your face looks, I get to see the before and afters, which is really cool. Your face looks different.
Yeah, I feel it. Well, I'm also feeling like pulses and light, and I'm not in the same spot I was in when we first started. It's just like wavy. I don't know how to explain it. It's very strange, but oh my gosh, wow. Thank you, Christy, so much for channeling the Council of Light for us. Such
my
a gift.
Pleasure.
Such a gift. And thank you to the council for the guidance and presence. So appreciated. Wow. I don't even, hold on a minute. I need to breathe. It's that empath thing. So do you even remember any of the stuff that you talk about?
No.
Or do you have to, okay. So
no, when I'm out, I'm out. I'll have to watch it later.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Hold on. Still dizzy. Are they still
open up?
here?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay.
They open up the back of the head and neck, they said. So whenever you feel dizzy, whenever you feel pressure, whenever you feel like a headache, whenever any of that stuff, just imagine open up the back of the head and neck. There's that release valve that's back there. Just turn it on like you turn on a stove or a bathtub, right? Just open it up and just let it release out. So, yay.
Hey, wow. Okay. I have to say wow about 50 more times right now. Okay. All right. Before we wrap up, I'd love to finish with some questions that I ask all my guests. If you could offer one piece of advice to someone just starting their healing journey, what would it be?
Well, I would say that where you're at is in lack. And where you are, and the thing that gets you out of lack is compassion. So learn to practice compassion. We've given lots of different examples of how to do that. And because compassion is the neutralizer. So if I can do it, you can do it.
I can do it. I know. Thank you for that. How would you define awakening?
Remembering, it's being aware of, it's having an understanding of, and also having knowledge of who you are, what's available to you.
Great. I love that. And what do you believe soul divinity is?
Soul divinity, it's who we are. It's the multidimensional part of us. It's the part that's breathing us. It's beating our heart. It's life. And so we have it in us. And so when we can remember that and tap into it and focus and pay attention to it, it grows and expands. It's like any type of relationship. Yeah. If we give energy and focus and attention to it, it's going to feed that relationship. So that part of it is not something outside of us in a cloud somewhere. Or in heaven somewhere. It's with us. It is us. And the more we give attention to it, the more we realize it and really feel the comfort by it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, just Google me. You can go to Christy. Gosh, Google
That's
me.
true.
Yeah, you can go to ChristyWhitman.com. I'm on Instagram, Christy Whitman Official. FlowFactorBook.com is where you can find the book. I highly recommend going to WatchYourWords.com because it's a free program and it is transformational. So lots of ways to get a hold of me.
That's perfect. All right. And just as so everybody knows, we will have all of the links in the description below. So be sure to go down and look through those. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Just that you are flow and flow is you. And so you're the factor that decides if you're in flow or not, and that you get to choose that. So if you don't know how, go pick up a book, the flowfactorbook.com, and we'll teach you how to get back into flow, which is your natural state of well-being, which always feels good. Flow feels good. Cliff Note version, flow feels good.
Flow. All right.
Awesome.
It's been an honor having you with us today and
Thank
sharing
you.
your depth and your wisdom and your years of experience. We're not dating anyone. And to all of you listening, may this conversation remind you that healing is possible and that the energy we bring to our lives has the power to transform everything. If this resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe so you don't miss what's ahead and stay connected with our community. Thank you so much for being here with us on Awakening Soul Divinity. Thank you for being here. Click on one of the videos below to keep going on your healing journey. And don't forget to subscribe.